Well, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Restless Hearts channel. If you're watching this online, you can tell that we're all wearing masks because we got special guests here with us today that are outside of the Restless Hearts like pod of people. So we're going to be having a fun conversation today about like what it's like to be an Asian American Pacific Islander in church in America right now, and so we got some friends from in town, and I want to let them introduce themselves a little bit. So y'all know me, I'm Garret, and I'll answer all this stuff in a second, but I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourselves. Just tell us who you are, what's your family like, what your ethnic heritage is, what do you do for work, and what's your comfort food. Let's do that with easy things. And so how about we'll start with you.
Okay. My name is An Johnson. I'm going to be celebrating 10 years of marriage next month, y'all.
Okay.
And we have 2 tiny typhoons, and they are biracial. My husband is white, and like I felt like that's important because that'll come later in the conversation. But I'm Vietnamese. I immigrated to America when I was about 2.5, and I am an ordained pastor, but I also work at a tech company in Bellingham.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, my comfort food? Dang. It's a tough mix. Probably homemade pho or fried chicken.
Nice. Just standard.
Standard.
I mean, like, I feel like fried chicken like transcends cultures.
I know, it really does.
Every culture has fried chicken.
Oh, it's so good.
That's a funny thing about being Asian is people assume you really like rice. And I'm like, every culture eats rice, homie. Like, I know, anyway.
Not all of them has our sweet rice cooker, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, there's not like a
Tiger
German
brand.
rice. Yeah.
You got all the flowers on the sides and everything.
And it sings once it's done.
Yeah. Plays a little BTS. Oh, that's what mine does. Got it at Costco. My name's Fred, and sorry there, bud. And I am Korean. I was adopted at 21 months from South Korea to a white family in Kent Federal Way area. I have an older sister who's also adopted, but white.
Standard.
Yeah.
Standard adoptions.
She was from Tacoma, you know. But yeah, so that certainly influenced my upbringing in a lot of sort of weird ways. And for work, well, let's see, I'm also a pastor in town with a ministry called The Garden, which some of you may know, and was formerly on staff at CTK with these lovely people.
Yes.
And now I also work for the same tech company that An works for.
Nice.
And my comfort food is probably any starch. So
Free reign. Just
yeah,
start.
rice, potato, however it is, it's fine. I'm just into it.
All right. Yeah, like I'm Garret. You guys all know me. I talk about my family all the time. I'm Filipino. And for work, I do this, which is wild. I know. This is what I do.
Let's play the sad trombone sound.
Yeah, I do this for a living. Like, I know it's like wild that this is what I do for a living. It's great. My comfort food is, I have a couple, but I'll stay on brand and I'll just go Filipino adobo. It's just the tang.
But chicken or pork?
Pork, 100% pork. Yeah, my
Belly
sister.
too.
My
Gotta get
sister,
belly in
yeah. My sister started doing like thigh adobo, which is fine, and I was just like, no, give me all that fat, just get it in me. Yeah.
I'm Kua. I am Filipino and Hawaiian, and I was born and raised in the Bay Area in California, but more specifically, a little town called Vallejo. My family, my dad is full Filipino. My mom is like a mixture of Hawaiian, Portuguese, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Wow. And then I have, I'm trying to remember my siblings.
They're not important.
I have 3 younger siblings, 1 younger sister, and then 2 younger brothers.
Yes. Okay.
And my comfort food, there's a lot. I think.
How to narrow it down.
Yeah.
I know.
All food is comfort.
We'll stick on brand.
It's so central. We
We'll
talk
stick
about
on
it.
brand.
Yeah.
One of my favorite comfort foods is this dish called Garret. It is a peanut butter stew.
Yes, bro.
With oxtail and tripe and
Yes.
eggplant. And then you serve it on the side with this little like shrimp paste, and it's called bagoong.
Oh.
It is It's fire.
So he's bringing that to our.
Why didn't we have food for this?
We should have had it. We could have had it right
I
here.
feel like this should have been done around a dinner table
Yes,
while we're
yep.
eating food.
That would have been
super
If
Asian.
Garrett
I'll
was
bring it
doing
to the
his
potluck.
job,
I know. I need to do a better job hosting.
We wanted to
this.
represent Asian culture right here.
I know.
There would be food involved. But
There are not enough plastic in the world to wrap these couches.
No, there would not be. We would need plastic runners into the house.
Get your feet
We would
off
need a
the
bunch.
chair.
Like I don't know. Like growing up in the Filipino houses, like a sad Jesus on the wall, like a sad
and
white
then
Jesus.
you have the big old spoon and the
It
fork
does
hanging on the wall.
wooden cutlery for some reason on the wall.
So people knew where to eat.
Yes, that's
But
right.
then the color you actually use is the cheapest plastic.
Yes,
you know.
that's right. That's right.
You can tuck the mothballs into the plastic too. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that we are all from different forms of Asian culture, but there's some staples about it. Okay, so we all just talked a little bit about like our heritage. All of us work in church or have worked in the church. We're obviously all at least grown up in America. So like what it's like we've seen like a rise in violence to the AAPI community. We all exist in faith spaces. So like, what's it been like, y'all? Like, what's it been like to be a Christian as a person of color, in the midst of the, like not just this moment, but just in general, growing up in churches that I should say, I should ask first, did you grow up in work predominantly in church spaces that were white? Or like majority culture, and then what was that like? And if you didn't grow up in a church that was like that, what has that been like to move to Bellingham and definitely work in that? Yeah. So what's that experience like right now? Just like as a person of color in the church in America right now.
Man, who wants to go first?
You got this.
Okay.
On goes first.
So like I mentioned earlier, I immigrated to America, and I didn't become a Christian until I was about 19.
Okay.
And so I didn't grow up in majority spaces, evangelical spaces, white spaces. And, you know, in reflection, even for myself, seeing everything that's happening to our community and like peeling back the layers that I feel like we've all been taught to just like head down, don't make noise, don't cause trouble, be invisible, because that's how we're going to be safe. I feel like peeling that back, I just realized like I didn't start feeling shame about my ethnic heritage until I became a Christian at 19, when I got saved and became a part of white evangelical spaces where I was always the other. And so nothing, like here's the thing, people don't think it's harmful because it isn't directly said, but the culture itself forces people to fit into a mold of what it means to love Jesus in America and in evangelical spaces. And because I was already the other, I felt like I had to double down on becoming more like everyone else. And that just meant not appreciating myself, my culture, and everything the way that I did, honestly, prior to becoming a Christian. So I feel like I'm on this journey where I'm watching, like, you know, in churches, we call like the body of Christ, like it's like family. We use a lot of familial terms.
Yeah.
I want to call BS. I'm calling BS because family doesn't stand aside when you're getting your butt whooped. Like family, like if somebody was picking on Fred for whatever reason, like let me take out my earrings, let me throw down because you don't mess with my brother. Right? And I feel like family in Asian culture, that's we throw down. Like we come in, we are like, and that's why I think we are so communally hurting because how we see family. And so now knowing that that's family and then being in white evangelical spaces, like the silence that we are experiencing from churches and the silence that we are experiencing from Christian leaders, I call BS on their idea of family. Because how can you be silent when you see an entire group of people be like violently attacked and everything? How can you call that your sister or your brother or that you love them if you're just going to not say anything about seeing them like experience a pain purely based on how God made them? Right. So I feel like I'm really sensing a deep tension and it's pulling me back towards appreciation for my ethnic heritage and my culture, because I think that more reflects kingdom
Yeah.
than what I am seeing reflected in what we have said that this space is kingdom.
You're right. Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, like the way that I heard that, I was like, you immigrated, you had to learn a new culture.
Yeah.
You converted, you had to learn another new culture.
Yeah.
And now you're immigrating back to your original culture.
Yeah.
Which is like that's a
It's like a coming home.
Yes.
That's the way I would describe it. It's like a coming home to myself and to the things that I just slowly tucked away
Yeah.
that didn't fit into this majority culture.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you guys remember when, like, if you're a kid and your family cooks something that smells so familial to you, but then your white friends, like, hate on it because they're like, oh, what's
Yeah,
that? And there
yeah.
was, like, that shame there.
Yeah.
Like, I want to just toss that in the garbage because I'm like, why do we have to conform to that?
Yeah.
Why can't the majority recognize that this is different and this is beautiful and this is great
Yeah.
instead of us feeling ashamed for our food, our clothes, our family dynamics, all
Yeah.
of those things? Came super spicy to this.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
Like, I've got a lot of feelings about this.
Yes.
This is why
I'm
An had to go
coming
first because she
home.
goes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I love what you pointed out, though. I mean, I think Asians, people of color in America, every group would, I think, probably relate to this, is that, like, if you see somebody from your tribe or whatever in a fight, you run up and you just start fighting.
Yeah.
And you got their back, and then afterward you're like, so why were we fighting?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we live in a predominant culture that is like, they'll see something going on and they'll say, well, let's wait till we get some more information.
Yes.
More commonly, like, let's get the facts first. Like, we need more facts and things like that. And in the meantime, we're sitting here like, while you guys are waiting on whatever facts you're waiting on,
Yes.
Yeah.
people are being hurt.
Yes.
And people are
Exactly.
losing their lives, and people are being pushed out of what by this, like, we're understanding that we're being gaslit at this
Yes.
point
Yes.
with this whole invitation into family, when at the root of it, you don't have our backs.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. So what there, and that's not everybody.
No.
But that's I think that's the sense we feel in sort of a corporate or communal, like, large picture sense. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, it feels like at times that, like, there is like a burden, like, we all bear, because at least here in Bellingham,
Yeah.
for, like, it's not just like the Asian American community that's in Bellingham. It's all people of color. Like, it's like
Yeah.
there's so few of us here in town that you feel a camaraderie around that, even though our histories and our stories are totally different. And so when you show up like that, like, you show up to the fight and then you're asked, what are we fighting about? Like, even just showing up is it feels at times totally isolating, because
Yeah.
you bear the burden of explaining all of the time your own experience. Just to show up and advocate and say, yo, I'm hurting and here is why.
Yeah.
It pretty much in no other space, when you show up and you say, hey, I'm hurting, and they'll say why, and they'll listen, and then that's it.
Yeah.
There's no yeah, but
Yeah.
what about this experience? It's like you just are there, present in the space. And I feel like that is definitely something I'm experiencing. How about you, Ku?
I think it's interesting. I think especially growing up in the Bay Area, where racially and ethnically it's very diverse.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have to grow up feeling that, because everybody is pretty much like equally leveled out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did feel that growing up, though, when I went to like you were saying, on when we go in with our food, and food is how we specifically connect with each other,
Yeah.
and how we
Yeah.
can share our culture with
Yeah.
other people.
Yep.
In first grade, when I go there and I'm the only brown kid in like a class of 35 with all other like white kids, and every day I come in with this food that my mom makes, which I love.
Yes.
Filipino corn nuts. We know what you're talking about.
But all the kids are saying, ew, like,
Yeah.
get that away from me, or that smells disgusting, or
Yes.
it's like, at a young age like that, it's like hard not to be formed by those words.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's hard not to be like driven by those things. Are like, oh, if this is who I am and this is what I love, but the people around me like say that it's disgusting, then does that mean that I am like in myself and my culture is like,
Yes.
Am I disgusting?
yeah, am I disgusting?
Right.
Am I not like pleasurable? Like, or am I not willing to be, accepted in this space? And I think, working out of that, especially being and growing up in a Filipino church where like everybody else looked like me and we all understood the same kind of culture.
Right.
And not only just in Filipino culture, but like specifically in Vallejo, like my high school, I could count the number of white people on my hand.
Yeah.
And there's about 2,000 kids at my school.
Yeah.
But we were all Filipino, Black, Hispanic, like poly, like all this different like melting pot.
Yeah.
And then when I go to college, I am culture shocked because it's completely flipped.
Flipped.
Like especially going into like a Bible college.
Yes.
Yeah.
With so many people who are coming from the same culture, do understand these things, and now everything's flipped on its head because now all the things that are normal to me
Right.
Yeah.
and who I am, and we're here learning the same things,
Right.
but even in that we have so many different like mindsets, ideologies, theologies.
Yeah.
I think that was just an interesting place to be in working through that. But
Totally.
yeah, it's just interesting feeling like you have to like you said, and what Fred was saying, like we have to explain ourselves or work through that for other people to kind of understand us instead of
Yes.
just being able to come and be and like that be it.
Right. Yeah. What I think is interesting is all of us just talked about our experience, what it looks like just to be us in the spaces that we're in. But now our experience has suddenly gotten like brought to light.
Oh yeah, we went from invisible to highly
Visible. Yeah. Yeah. So what's that been like to like, we've all experienced this, but honestly, at times silently, quietly.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, what is it like? What's it been like, and your guys' process to move from that experiencing being a quiet experience to all of a sudden being highly visible because of the Atlanta shootings?
Shoot, I'll go. Can I go first?
Yes, you go first.
I got some thoughts. I came fed
I need to
and like
protect
prepared.
myself.
No, it was my friend Jocelyn Chung who said it, where it feels so tender and vulnerable going from being invisible to visible.
Yeah.
And the best way I can describe it is like it feels like you went from being clothed to naked and no one's willing to give you clothes again to cover yourself. It feels so exposing.
Yeah.
Because I think it's total, like apparently I think a lot of things are BS, but I think it's just mind blowing to me that it took 8 people dying for somebody to be like, oh my gosh, Fred is Asian. Like, right? Like it took 8 people dying for people to like recognize this thing that we have been saying. Like I was talking about the violence towards the AAPI community before the shooting, and like I was honestly so pissed when it, like, I have been saying this. I know for darn sure you saw what I was saying because I see you read my stories. I see you like my things. Like, this is a real thing. 8 people dying, and the people are like, oh, man, this is horrific. I wonder if more people will acknowledge our stories and our experience and our word without giving us the burden of explanation.
Yeah.
People are already predispositioned to doubt the words of people of color, period. That's why they gaslight us. But if people would have just listened, and they would have listened a long time ago,
Right.
I think it wouldn't have been so emotionally damaging. That it took 8 lives for people to like give us some dignity, remorse, or acknowledgement.
Right.
And that burns my toast. Because I can't curse on this, but I feel like I need to. My toast is burnt and beige.
Matt, get the beep button.
No,
Got
I
it?
did not. We were good. We're good. We don't have to put the E on the podcast.
We welcomed Aunt Johnson. We had to put the E on it.
So good.
No, I think about what you were saying, Kua, and you on that, like, all of us in our own stories, we have kind of a pretty wide range of Asian experience in America and in the church just represented here. But we all have these moments where we got othered, where we got whether it was explicitly hurtful or if it was just implicitly hurtful, right? And then the expectation is on us to either assimilate to what seems normal or is at least majority, or at least explain ourselves to the point where the majority will accept the difference that we have. And that, I think, gets conflated up to this whole thing of this imaginary idol of American culture, which is really just a facade for predominantly white American culture.
Yes.
Right? Because white majority, cultural and political and whatever power is what we all live as a part of.
Yes.
And so then to not have... And so then to grow up with these experiences and to carry these scars and to learn to suffer in silence or whatever it may be, then we have this burden on our hearts that sometimes gets spoken out loud and sometimes doesn't, which is, if I really told you what my experience was as a person of color in this culture, would anybody believe me?
Yes.
Oh,
And for decades, all of us experienced a little bit of yes, but a lot of no, right? And so then you get these massively horrific things happening that open some people up to say, well, maybe there's something going on here. And then they reach out to us because I think there is a good part of the heart that's like, I know an Asian person. Let me see how they're feeling. But not knowing that just increases the burden on us to then now manage their experience.
They want us to be their comfort people.
Yes.
Right.
Like if you look at war-torn, like like Asian countries with war, they would set up stations called comfort women where the soldiers can go and get sexually gratified. And that was their entire existence, is to be comfort people.
Yes.
And I think that is, in a way, indirectly and directly, what a lot of people are expecting us as Asians to be for them.
Yes.
Is to be their comfort people so they can feel satisfied knowing that they said something without pausing to recognize the damage that is being done because they don't know how to grieve.
Yes.
Because they don't know how to educate themselves. Because they don't know the cost that is being paid by people of color just so white people can learn just a little bit.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And all of this just swirls around, I think, in this, like, the thing I hate saying because it's so, I think, it's homogenous in our cultural language now, but mishandled, I would say, a lot, and that is that we live in a predominantly white culture. And through that, whether it's on an extreme level or on a subtle level, there is a predominantly white supremacist culture that discounts or invalidates the stories of Kua, the place that it puts a comfort woman in. That type of culture does not allow for somebody to view somebody like a comfort woman with humanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
It only allows them to say it's the whole. Who's that smart German guy? The I and we, or I and thou. There's some smart German guy who wrote about this.
There's a handful, but you know which one we're talking about.
But it's this phenomenon of going from viewing people as serving a function in your life, and there's like a to real communal relationship, and the visual. No, different German.
Okay.
The visual representation is two people seated in chairs looking the same direction, and then those two coming together to face one another, and how differently you view somebody when you really allow yourself to come into their space and into their psyche and all of that. And that is the dignity that I think that has not yet been afforded.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to say that some of the moves that I've seen in the last few months, there is some hope for that, but there's also a lot of harm being done. You know, like you see somebody whose spouse dies, and the family all wants to come, the friends want to come, and then they start processing their own grief with the person whose spouse just died.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it makes that person who's in the deepest place of
Pain.
grief in their life have to manage the grief of the other people.
Yes.
That's the position that we get put in
Yes.
in these moments. And it doesn't mean like, don't text me, don't call me.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that.
Right.
It means just recognize what function you're expecting me to serve
Yes.
Yeah.
in your life. And if I am a utilitarian function for you in this, then you are not acknowledging my humanity. You're not acknowledging my experience, my
Yes.
grief, all that stuff. You're asking me to serve a purpose for you
Yep.
that ultimately serves you
Yeah.
rather than serving me and my community
Right.
and meeting me in my grief.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that to try to, for anyone that's hearing this and is hearing the term, let's say white supremacy, maybe for the first time, or
I don't
is
want
like,
to trigger anybody.
Yes, I know. But what I think,
Yeah.
I just want to like say like that is what we mean by like a version of white supremacy is that that people of color are put in the position to help help white people navigate a trauma that's happening to our community.
Right.
Caused by theirs.
Yes,
Let's
yes, like
Right.
yes.
also
So
Right.
like so
Can't
that
skip that part.
yes, right.
That part.
So that's what, that there is an expectation
Yeah.
that the white experience can find some sort of like direction. Like I remember like just recently a high-ranking politician was talking about like this is not who America is, like talking about it, the Atlanta shootings.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, no, like this is
exactly-
exactly
Yeah.
who
We've
America
been trying to tell you.
Yes.
Who've been all
Yeah.
the people of color are
Yes.
like, this is America. And they're
Yeah.
like, this is
No,
not
I mean
who
like there's
we
the
are.
Chinese Exclusion Act.
Yeah.
There's like you can like
Right.
map the sun out.
Puyallup,
like-
the Puyallup Fairgrounds was the largest Japanese internment camp
Yes.
in the United States.
So
And
Bellingham
we all
drove
went
Chinese people
out of
That's
it,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, like
I mean, so that is a version of it.
Yeah.
Is like when we say white supremacy, what we mean is that there's like a level of consciousness that in the majority culture is like racism happens, but I'm not it, and that gets infiltrated into like even our national psyche.
absolutely.
Racism happens, but that's not who we are, and it's like there's not a spot where we can begin to actually make progress until we say no, this is exactly who we are.
Well, like we
Right.
talked about it when we were doing the content, where it's like the most dangerous group of people is not the racist. You know where the racist stands.
yeah,
They give you at least that.
yeah,
The most dangerous and harmful group of people to this conversation are people who are unwilling to recognize that they have implicit bias
Yes,
that
sure.
actually upholds white supremacist culture, even though they never called an Asian person a derogatory term, even if they never attacked a person of color, they might still have unconscious things like
Yes.
looking at us as comfort women
yes,
and expecting us to hold their grief while we're grieving because they don't actually see us as humans. They see us as people who make them feel better.
yeah,
And I think that even because I think so many people see like Asian communities as passive as well.
Yeah.
Like we are not huge. Like I've never seen like a 6'9" like Asian guy.
Give Yao Ming some credit.
Like I've never seen.
Jeremy Lin some credit.
Okay, that's two.
But better than none.
And
dude from Bloodsport, the dude from
Bolo. But yeah, no, like we are generally smaller in stature, right? We are not huge, like, and we've always been like a little bit more passive, just because, like I was saying, it's that idea and that mentality of keep your head down,
Yeah.
like don't say anything, because that's how we're gonna get through this. And I think even thinking to my grandparents, when my grandparents came here and immigrated here, they had to get into, they had to make a living.
Right.
And so when they come in, like they're doing whatever they can to assimilate to the culture.
that's
Yeah.
right.
And all of these biases and everything are coming through when, you know, when my dad has to go to school and they're saying only speak English, or they didn't teach my dad how to speak Tagalog or their native tongue from their specific region in the Philippines. Like all of these things are slowly and I think ingrained in us without even realizing it or not, because even within, I'll just say Filipino culture, there is already racial kind of undertones and racist activity and racist feelings and ideas that I think are grafted from the majority white culture, but has
Oh,
also been
absolutely.
processed through
Yes.
us as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, and how do we feel about that when, okay, this is something that we are trying to combat. This is something that we're trying to, be a part of and come together as one people, one community.
Yeah.
But we are also dealing with that
with our
within.
yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
So it's just like I'm saying, we are having to double down on some of these things because it's like, how are we breaking down the things that are coming from outside, these outside sources?
Yeah, that's true.
But also trying to break down the unhealthy things that are within our own culture.
But we
as
have to
well.
pause to recognize those things have come because we have lived in a majority white culture where those things do become grafted into the way that we think about each other, the way that Asian women think about how to be beautiful. It's low key for look more white.
Yes.
Right? Get eyelid surgery, get skin whiteners, get your hair dyed like blonde, get all these things because that is beauty, because that is imposed itself into our culture of this is what it means to be Asian in America.
Yes. Yeah, that's so good. So as people have reached out to you, as we're talking about like what it is, the conversations that we're having in light of some of the elevated national conversation, like what's that experience? Like when people are reaching out to you and be like, yo, Fred, cool, how you doing? What's been helpful? What's been unhelpful in some of those conversations? Ooh.
You go first, Fred.
Yeah, Fred goes first this time. Fred goes this
Because I feel like you're going to be a lot nicer than I'm going to be.
So there's this thread to pull on, I think, because I think I'm sensitive to the all the things that we've just talked about, and I'm not willing to play the game. I'm not willing to go there, and so I usually deflect. People say, what can I? People who check in, which is a lot of people that I'll say I'm really like blessed by that. It's just had a lot of people just like, man, I don't know what's going on in your heart right now, but I want you to know I'm with you. That means the world to me, right? And I usually don't say a lot. Say appreciate it. Yeah. But you can tell then when there's this other layer of somebody wanting to either solve a problem for me or to prove to me that they're a part of the solution or something. And so then there's some weird questions get asked, like, but what can I tangibly do for you or your family right now? And like, I've made some dark jokes like, please just don't shoot people who look like me. I mean, that's a great start.
Step one.
Step one.
Like, appreciate you not doing that. And if you're not doing that, you're on a pretty good track.
The baseline is so minimum.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking for first.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the thread to pull on, because I've really wrestled with like, people are, if I give the benefit of the doubt and I try not to read or I guess like diagnose problematic parts of people's hearts when they approach me or whatever, it really is like I think that there's this understanding that people in marginalized or othered communities know, which is that we are personally and corporately, I think, we are expected to play a function that serves the larger predominant culture. We are viewed subserviently most of the time. If you think about what function does predominant white culture expect or want from Asian culture, it is a lot of the things you think of are like actually like service vocations and are things that are like outperform us in ways that we aren't really interested in anyway.
Yes.
And I think what happens to us internally, whether we recognize it or not, is that the only thing that's really left just for us, just for me, just for people who look like us with our backgrounds, or other people of color, or other marginalized groups, the only thing that's left just for us is my story.
Yeah.
The only thing that I possess that nobody can own but me is my story.
Yeah.
And so when people come to me and ask me, what's your experience as an Asian person? That's not just something I can talk about, like, tell me what happened in church on Sunday, or tell me about your kid, or tell me about why you like baseball or something. It's really about, like, you're asking me to give you the only thing that is truly mine for me.
Yes.
And so to come to me and ask for that is not it's not trivial in any way.
Yep.
It is the only thing that is mine. And so then we have to do this mental and emotional and social math of, is this somebody who I believe I can trust to honor and uphold my story if I share it with them? And sometimes we do and sometimes we don't,
yeah.
right? And probably a lot of us have been asked or invited to share our stories in public spaces, and we've had to wrestle through that.
Yes.
Yeah.
To go like, who's going to be in that public space?
Right.
We have to
the
do
cost?
Yes.
Yeah, we have to do all of these equations of like, what's the risk, what's the cost, and what's the potential benefit. And these are things that other predominant or majority groups don't have to think through on the same level, right? Like, that doesn't mean everybody, but in general.
Yes.
And so I think what I would really love for my friends to know is that when you're asking me for that, understand the weight
Yes.
of what you're asking for,
yeah.
and you need to honor it on a level that maybe you aren't totally accustomed to honoring people's stories with, right?
Oh, that's so good.
And so, I mean, because really it's not only just the thing that's mine in our culture, but because of the pressures that have come with that, it's really the only thing that's mine
Right.
on a more deeper, even spiritual level,
Right.
because my spiritual experience is so deeply impacted by my cultural experience
Yes.
and my personal experience.
Right.
So I think that's kind of a word that I've wanted to articulate in different spaces and different relationships of like, do you understand what you're asking me for when you want to know my experience? I appreciate you asking, but I have some work I need to do to decide, what I let out and what I don't. Right.
Yeah. Anyone else have any other thoughts? No, that's a lot.
Because we talked about this, and I've been marinating on it more. I think one of the benefits, like we're all in pastoral work, is you get to dive into a part of human psyche and heart and spirit that most people don't.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's generally a higher level of like discernment where it's easier to figure out the why.
Yeah.
Right. And it's difficult because like when well-meaning people reach out, they're generally, to me at least, I have a good sense of their heart, and I want to extend the same grace and mercy that that my Black friends have given me as I have learned how to engage in a conversation of how to love them and serve them and to help lift the burden and the oppression off of them. I want to extend that same grace and mercy to other people who don't know. But I feel like there's a part of me that is also able to recognize when people, and I'll go back to this term, when people want to view me as their comfort woman.
Yeah.
Where they are only acknowledging my plight to give themselves the satisfaction of like, I'm a decent human being, I'm not racist because I reached out to that one Asian person I know.
Sure.
Right?
And that's not what your story is for.
Yeah,
No,
and that's
that's-
not what my story is for. And I have no problem telling them that that's not okay.
Yeah.
And I think generally when that confrontation happens, one, I don't want them to go perpetuate that same harm to another person of color, but how they respond is a good indicator also of confirming their why.
Yeah.
Right? And so I agree with Fred, like the honor of bearing and holding our stories and not demanding it. I've also seen a high level of demand that they deserve to hear our story.
Yes.
They demand to hear our stories.
Yeah.
Meow, no.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, look at my woke checklist.
yeah, look at how cool I am. But it's like, no.
Therefore, give me your story.
Give me your story. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Because like Fred said it, like that is what is solely ours.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us in the AAPI community are recognizing that we are so much more valuable and we have so much more dignity that we can give ourselves to tell someone, no,
Right.
you don't get to hear my story because you will not hold it with care and tenderness that it deserves. And you are not a safe human being.
Yes.
Therefore, no.
Yeah. And I think that that's an important thing, especially within Christian context, because everyone feels like they should share their story or they're deserving of hearing someone's story because they view it as a testament to what God has done in their life as like an overcoming. But what we're all saying is that our story hasn't been overcome yet. So it's still in process. And we would never ask anyone if they were still in process, still in pain, to share their story if they felt uncomfortable. There would be an instant like pastoral response that we'd say, oh, like, absolutely. And that's what we're saying is that this is not a story that has met overcoming yet. It's still happening.
We are still in the actual battle of
Yes.
getting our
Yes.
butts and our aunties and our grandmas and our sisters getting violated and
Yeah.
abused, we are still in the middle of the
that.
battle, but you want us to pause the battle and like help you
Yes.
really quick? Like, no.
Yeah. We're still working
We've got
through.
things that we are trying to care for right now for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think it almost feels so unnatural because in our passive stereotype and even in our culture of head down, don't cause trouble.
Yep.
When we say no, that causes trouble
Yes.
to the majority because they can't demand and expect what they have always demanded and expect.
That's right. Could you got anything?
No, I'm just thinking of like what does it mean for people just to listen?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like what does it mean for people just to listen to me and that's it?
Yeah.
Like I know that people want to relate and people want to empathize, but there are just some things that like this, like we were saying, this is my story. And sometimes like if you are a safe enough person, like I want to let you in and share that. But at the same time, I don't need you to like feel like you can connect with it like completely because I just wanted to tell you what's on my heart and what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, I'm still processing through what this means. And so
Right.
I think just the idea of like listening isn't waiting for your turn to talk.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
we
that's
hear
really good.
we hear that all the time, but yeah, I think just being like, especially just being with me, I think for people who or for us who are trying to come by and support us in this is just be with us and not disregarding like and generalizing everything, but like be with me and see me for who I am.
Yeah.
See me that like my Asian, like my story is different than Garrett's and Fred's and On's. Like it's not just one thing. Right. And so just
And if you don't know what to say nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
then that's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. Yeah, that's so good, Koo. Yeah.
And don't bring us food. We talked about this.
we didn't talk about
beige food. Unless you know how to cook and it's been vetted in the good times. If you have fed us on the mountaintop, please
Yeah,
feed us
like-
in the valley.
I'm not sure what I would do if somebody brought me a casserole. I've never eaten casserole.
I got you, Koo.
Okay, here's the thing. I will say I mess with green bean casserole so tough. Green bean casserole is fire. But other than that,
Koo. Green bean casserole.
You guys, that's so good. Well, I mean, I know we've had a good time. And it's been like one thing I'd say is like it's been so good to just talk with y'all because like I think in this process, like same thing, like all like people reach out and it's just been like the people I'm gonna talk to, like we got a text thread it's called the Browns in Town text.
Browns in town.
Yeah, and so like I'm gonna text them. That's when I need to talk. That's who I'm gonna talk to about this. Like honestly, and yeah, I'm gonna like be available and stuff. And like pastorally, I have people of color in my community that I'm there for. But it's like this is the crew that has helped me process. So I'm just super thankful to like just get to do that in a way that hopefully is helpful to other people and care. So here's the last thing. Like where can people like your thoughts? Where can they follow you? Give your follows. Like where can people like hear more from you and hear your stories?
Find Fred on TikTok.
No, I hate TikTok so much. I hate it so much. This is like washed old
Fred.
Fred situation. but I can't handle it. It's too overstimulating. But the other places, it's just my name. Is that
Find me
Fred
on
Hartsick?
LinkedIn.
Instagram, Twitter. Follow me for your favorite Felix photos. And Rachel Hollis dunks.
Yes.
So,
It's been going dunking on Rachel.
That's his TikTok. It's called Rachel Hollis.
oh man. Okay. All right, I might get into it.
Yeah, totally. How about you, hon?
Probably on Instagram. Wait, do you want us to give our handle?
Yeah,
Or
give your
can
handle.
you-
Yeah.
I don't know it. I think it's on ANH Johnson 0724.
Yes. Okay.
think
Well,
on
we'll
Twitter
tag
it's
you in it.
called
We'll
Jib
tag you
Jab
in it.
Johnson.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
pretty sure that's what it's called. Who knows?
How about you, Koo?
you can follow me at Instagram. That's like the only thing I'm on. Kua_G. KUA_G.
Let's go. Let's go. Well, thanks you guys for hanging out and chatting with us. Really appreciate it a ton. And I'm looking forward to it. Maybe we'll do a follow up. We'll see. We'll do a follow up at some
See if
point when we're
there's a
less.
firestorm.
Yes. When the
Can we
toast
do
is
it around
less
a dinner
burnt.
table with food?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Matt will have to stand there and just watch it.
Says he- yeah, he can eat it. Yeah. That's all right. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you can stay tuned for all of our content.